Okay, good morning, everybody. My name is Vito Fossella, and welcome. We're here to once again, beat the drum against congestion pricing. As we've been saying for months, that this is bad for the people of Staten Island in particular. It's bad for the city, it's bad for the region. Frankly, it's a three-strike loser for the people of Staten Island because we all know you got to pay 2 tolls to get to Manhattan if you drive a car. And the congestion pricing proposal, the scheme that has been brought forward, would actually increase traffic and increase pollution for the people of Staten Island. So thus a three-strike loser. And we're going to be right up front. We're going to do everything we can to stop this. And let me tell you why perhaps the most compelling reason and why we're here today. Our statistical analysis using government-generated statistics from New York City and the federal government and the conclusions of the MTA environmental assessment of its congestion pricing tolling plan show that this congestion pricing plan will shift hazardous air pollution from wealthy majority white neighborhoods to lower income minority neighborhoods on the North Shore of Staten Island. The North Shore lower income neighborhoods of Staten Island already suffer from the ill effects of hazardous air pollution, as these boards right here beside me show. Moreover, the much wealthier majority white residents of almost all of the central business districts of Manhattan south of 60th Street already enjoy far better health outcomes than the people of Staten Island's North Shore. If the MTA's congestion pricing plan toll is implemented, this disparity in health outcomes will grow as the air in Manhattan gets cleaner and the air in Staten Island becomes more polluted. The City of New York has already designated Staten Island's North Shore as environmental justice areas. And the City of New York has designated almost all of the central business district of Manhattan below 60th Street not environmental justice areas. It's unconscionable that the MTA would knowingly and deliberately further pollute lower-income minority districts' air as part of its plan to remove air pollution from Manhattan. Simply stated, if the MTA's congestion pricing program is implemented, more Staten Islanders will get sick, more Staten Islanders will die from the increases in the resulting hazardous air pollution, and that sickness and those deaths will occur among the residents of Staten Island's most diverse and lower-income neighborhoods. And we're going to get into the charts in a little bit, but we have stood united, everybody on Staten Island, in a bipartisan way. As some of you may know, that we actually filed suit in federal court a few months ago, and the gentleman who had the courage and the guts to help lead the way is with us today, and that's the president of the UFT, Mr. Mike Mulgrew. Michael?
Thank you, everyone, for being here. Since we have filed this lawsuit, it is quite ironic to me that all of a sudden my phone starts ringing with very influential people who all seem to live in the zone that's going to gain the greatest benefit. But the fact is, you look at this group behind us. The data is there, the research is there. What they are doing is wrong. Plain and simple. It's wrong. And what we have found in the proceedings since we have filed this is that we are up against an agency who is willing to say, promise, or do anything, no matter what the consequences are to people, as long as they, quote, and this is what we always hear, get our $1 billion. That's what this is about. I don't understand how people are going to stand by and let this happen. When you see the folks here again, so the people in Albany who I have lobbied, who quietly behind closed doors will thank me, but outside of their offices will not. They don't want to get in trouble. Well, to them and to anyone involved with this, I will say you will be on the wrong side of history if you do not stop this process. You do not want to be here in 10 years when they're talking about, if this is not stopped, they're talking about what a disservice and how horrible it is what we have done to certain neighborhoods in our city. You do not want to be part of that history when we say the elected officials did not stand up and stop this great injustice. And that's why we will not stop our fight. The MTA is wrong, plain and simple. They did a shoddy job. They rushed everything through. They checked their boxes, and now they're running around with a campaign of complete lies, telling everyone, promising them things that they should have delivered years ago, that they already said they were going to do. And the irony there is that I've never seen this agency move so quickly. This agency is ready to just flip a switch to get this system running. All of it is done. It is completed. So to the people of the Bronx who've been promised for over a decade about their Metro North stations, to the people in Staten Island who've been promised about our transit issues, they were all promised that the MTA said, oh, we're going to do this for you, received money to do it, and then did not do it. So do we all have to continue to learn this lesson, that the MTA is not a trustworthy agency? And again, I'm going to plead with all of the elected officials at the state level, those in city council, everyone, you do not want to be on the wrong side of history. You do not want us to be teaching children in our schools that the elected officials from New York State perpetrated one of the greatest injustices on the people of this city. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Michael. And Michael represents not only the UFT and the teachers union, but subsequently, or after our lawsuit was filed, about 400,000 other municipal workers joined efforts because they recognize the injustice, as Mike just said, of young people who have no choice but to drive a car. The reason why among the reasons we're here is because Staten Island, like so many pockets in the city, are transit deserts. They have no choice but to drive a car. So a young teacher, a young firefighter, a young sanitation worker, a cop, they don't have a choice to take a train because it doesn't exist. There is no subway on Staten Island. So those are the people that we're here for as well. And as you can see, right behind Councilman Borelli, this is what we're sort of the foundation. On the North Shore of Staten Island, the environmental justice areas, there are 4 zip codes. The demographic breakup there is 44% white, 48% black and Hispanic. The average household income is $62,000 in those 4 zip codes. In Manhattan, you have, in most of the central business district, you have 12 zip codes, right? The demographic breakup is 66% white and 20% black and Hispanic, and the average household income is $300,000. So already, because based on the city data over there, whether it's emergency, ozone, asthma, emergency department visits per 100,000 adults, you can see from left to right, those are the visits per 100,000. You have those among the communities in Manhattan, and on the very end is Port Richmond. So look at the difference between Port Richmond visits and Greenwich Village on the left. That's the disparity we're talking about. And then on these charts where you see the green and the white, you also have asthma cases, all far and above this, not just the city average, Staten Island average, and it's gonna get worse. You know, we're all in politics, and sometimes we're trying to determine what the best policy is and what to do, when we say, well, maybe that's right, maybe it's wrong. They are deliberately doing this, intentionally doing this. This is in plain English. So as I mentioned, we have a bipartisan group of folks. One of them is the Republican leader of the city council, and that's Joe Borelli. Joe?
Thank you, Borough President Fossella. So over the past several years, we have made every argument possible against congestion pricing. We've made an economic argument that this is going to hurt working peoples. I've asked every advocate of congestion pricing time and time again, stand with me at the foot of the Brooklyn Bridge and let's count how many Mazdas versus how many Maseratis. This is a tax on working people. We've made that argument. We've made the argument that it's not going to meet its own goal. Imagine a plan. Imagine a plan. Think of any other city agency. We're going to plant 1,000 trees with the Parks Department. We do a report. Can we plant 1,000 trees? No, we can't plant 1,000 trees. Let's go ahead of it. Let's go ahead and do it anyway. That's what the MTA is saying in their own report. It may reduce congestion by 2040 by a fraction of a measly hair. Thank you, MTA. There's actually less cars today in Manhattan than there is in 1970, or there was in 1970, in 1960s. Maybe something else has to do with why there's congestion. Maybe because we've taken miles away from traffic. Maybe because we've done other things. So now today we're talking about environmental justice. And we have an MTA and a governor driven by elitism. Elitism. They care about the people here in red. They don't give a crap about the people in blue. They don't care. I'm gonna, for dramatic purposes. I was walking here the other day. True story. I saw Hugh Jackman. Hugh Jackman. Hollywood celebrity. I've never seen Hugh Jackman on the North Shore of Staten Island. I've never seen any celebrity on the North Shore of Staten Island. Because these are some of the richest and most elite zip codes, not just in New York City, but in the entire world. They don't give a fiddler's fart whether their toilet paper is going to cost an extra nickel. They don't care. It doesn't matter to them. But the people in these neighborhoods, they care that they can't get to work. They care about the MTA's failure. And most importantly, they care about their health. So we've also asked John Lieber, the chair of the MTA, John, why don't you come to Staten Island and explain to these people the benefit of congestion pricing? Explain to these people who are some of the poorest in our borough, who are some of the most transit-starved in our borough because of your agency, John's failure. Why don't you come explain to these people the benefit of congestion pricing? There was a snarky comment about Borough President Fossella. They said, oh, Borough President Fossella, if he really cared, he'd like congestion pricing. Now, it's easy to beat up on an elected official. I mean, look at Vito, but it's easy to beat up on an elected official. Not hard. It's easy. But beat up on these people. Beat up on the people that have to live here. Come and find working class people who live in some of the poorest zip codes in our borough and tell us, John Lieber, tell us how this is benefiting our lives. But he won't, because he's a snob and he's an elitist and he doesn't care. The only metric by which the MTA's congestion pricing meets its goal is by raising money. The only goal they meet is money. It's for that goal that they're okay benefiting these people at the expense of those. So, John, we've invited you. Come here. Come here and tell us. Explain. We'll wait.
Thank you very much, Councilman Borelli, and also representing this particular area in the North Shore of Staten Island is State Senator Jessica Scarcella-Spetton. Jessica.
I don't know if I can be as charismatic as my friend over here, but I will say that this is absolutely wrong. We know already what the economic impacts are going to be of congestion pricing to all of Staten Island residents, but what about the health issues? I represent Port Richmond. I live just a few blocks out of Port Richmond in West Brighton. It's unacceptable to think that our kids, our families, are going to be subject to additional traffic, which is going to lead to additional pollution. Their own environmental impact study states this. And I can tell you, before I ran for office, I worked at the MTA. And it inspired me to run for office. So I'm very grateful for that very brief stint. But they're not thinking about Staten Islanders. They're thinking about how to get to their bottom line. And that is $1 billion through this plan that the councilman pointed out isn't going to work. So we need to come up with a different alternative. We were able to get, I think, 18 of our colleagues to join on to this lawsuit, representing all different parts of the state, from Orange County to Long Island, and of course here on Staten Island. So I am adamantly opposed to this plan, and I also want to commend the NAACP for joining us today. We have a Port Richmond resident, Jasmine Robinson, here with us, and let's think about her family, the families in the surrounding areas, and not worry so much about the white, wealthy, upper-class Manhattan residents who will see their pollution rates decrease while all of the North Shore of Staten Island increases. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. And again, on the other side of the island, but strong supporter here is Assemblyman Michael Tannousis. Michael.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Mr. Borough President, for having me, and for Joe Borelli for being so eloquent. I logged on to the MTA hearing a couple of weeks ago while I was in Albany, and as I'm sitting there waiting to speak, I heard quite a few Manhattan residents that live within this zone complaining, begging, pleading that when they drive in and out of the zone, that they are not charged for driving in and out of that zone. And a lot of them even said, we shouldn't pay a toll to go home. And I'm sitting there waiting to speak, thinking to myself, what are they talking about? Staten Islanders have been paying a toll to go home for years. And now, thanks to this plan, the expense to go to work and to go home is even higher. This is nothing more than bureaucrats and state elected officials greedy enough to implement this plan so they could fill their coffers for whatever they'd like to do. I remember when I first got elected back in 2021 in the midst of COVID, and the MTA was reaching out to all elected officials, assembly members, senators, all local elected officials. They begged us, they pleaded us to lobby the federal government to get funding. We did it reluctantly because we believed they needed it. But in actuality, what is happening today? They are implementing a plan that will increase the money in their accounts and that Staten Islanders will not see the benefit of. This plan will decrease your quality of life here on Staten Island, no matter what part of the borough you are in. We have no adequate public transportation systems. Everyone here is required to own a car if they like to work and actually live and get around. And this plan will directly affect us. I have news for them out there. Very few are the people that drive into Manhattan willingly. The people that drive into Manhattan do so because they have to. And now, thanks to this plan, we're going to continue chasing them elsewhere. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Michael. The senator talked about, representing we have a lot of different roles as public officials, but to me, the fundamental role we have is to be the voice of the people who are going to be adversely affected. And we said last week, if someone wanted to deliberately create a plan with the goals that wealthy white residents would breathe cleaner air while low-income and minority residents would breathe in more toxic air pollution, then this congestion pricing program would meet those goals. But we're not giving up, and to be the voice for the woman who Jessica just mentioned, the acting president of the NAACP, Jasmine Robinson. Jasmine?
Thank you for everyone for being here today, and I'd just like to say this. As acting president of the Staten Island NAACP branch, we are against this plan. Maybe it's because of my Catholic school upbringing. I'm very big on words. What is the meaning of congestion? It means to block, to clog. And this plan is going to clog. This is going to block so much traffic, and this is going to impact our communities negatively. We would talk about people that live in these, I'm sorry, sir, in these, this is me. This is where I live. I'm in the blue. This is not fair. This is not right. This is an injustice to those that are hardworking. It's not because we want to take driving that we need vehicles. It's because we need to, because this is a transportation desert. This is not fair. This is not right. This is an undue burden to our communities, to the black and brown communities, to the working class people. This is not fair. This is not right. This is a con, and this is not right, and we deserve better, and we deserve more. You know, people like to say that Staten Island is the forgotten borough. We're not the forgotten borough. We're the underestimated borough. And what does it mean to underestimate? It means to think of someone with less value, with ability, and with influence. But I'm here to tell you today that that's not us. We do have the ability, we do have the influence, and we do have the drive to make sure that we have our voices heard, and we're standing alongside with the elected officials and with the Staten Island community to let them know that we're not going to stand for this. We're tired of being forgotten. We're tired of legislation that's not meaningful and impactful to our community. But that ends today, and we're standing in solidarity with everyone right here, and I'm proud to stand as the NAACP acting president to make sure that our voices are heard, and we will continue to fight the good fight. And we are going to continue to get into good trouble. This is what we need to do. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jasmine. Thank you kindly. Our best to Ed Josie as well, please. And a longtime community leader and religious leader in this community is Reverend Bishop Victor Brown.
Thank you, sir. Good morning to one and all, to our illustrious Borough President Vito Fossella, and to the other elected officials gathered behind me, to my colleague in ministry, Dr. Demetrius Carolina, and to all of you, the good citizens of this great borough, and certainly to members of the press. I'm Bishop Victor Allen Brown, and I pastor the Mount Sinai United Christian Church, which is situated in Tompkinsville. And I'm pleased this morning to join the solidarity of opposition against this plan that is being posed upon us. When we think about the mystique and the nostalgia of New York, we have persons who come from all over the country and from other countries to tour New York City. They go to the Statue of Liberty. They take a ride on the Staten Island ferry. They journey to see some of our great religious institutions. They go about our city, maybe to take in a Broadway play. We are a great metropolis. But the concomitant reality is that we live in a city where the price on goods and services continue to be increased exponentially. And as has already been stated, well-meaning persons who are just seeking to make a living are being priced out of the city. We see companies that are moving out because they cannot no longer afford to be here. And so this plan exacerbates an already tenuous situation. Now we have that coupled with the fact that it creates a greater environmental injustice that exacerbates the reality ineluctable here on Staten Island, that Staten Island per capita leads the city in incidences of cancer. And so this plan can only make that reality worse. And so members of good intent in this community have no other choice but to stand in opposition. And I'm grateful to see that we have a bipartisan, collective effort against this plan, because on every side, it is wrong. And it will not benefit those who live in these areas who will be impacted, and it is not morally right. And so it is imperative that we all put aside our political differences and come to understand that when it comes to incidences of cancer or other illnesses, illness does not know party. It does not know race. And this is something that stands to affect all of us. And so it is imperative that we continue to join forces and keep the pressure on, and to let the MTA know that this plan is wrong. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bishop Brown. And as he mentioned, with us today is also Dr. Reverend Demetrius Carolina.
As was mentioned, I am Reverend Dr. Demetrius Carolina, the pastor of the First Central Baptist Church in the community of Stapleton, formerly the executive director of the Central Family Life Center. And I come simply to voice my agreement in this collaborative effort that we believe congestion pricing is wrong for Staten Island. Staten Islanders, we already know that this is a social justice issue. There is an issue of the social determinants of health that we all know are disproportionately affects Staten Islanders, and particularly Black and brown Staten Islanders on the North Shore, but not exclusively. And so it is a joy to see so many Staten Islanders come together over this very, very important issue that will not only affect those of us today, but certainly for generations to come. And I just urge all of our elected officials, those who are in the state legislature, to also join and ban the fact that we've come together for a social justice reality, something that will impact generations to come. Thank you for your attention and your time.
Thank you very much, Reverend. And I'm going to call up some of the representatives of the elected officials here. This is not, I want to repeat, and I think we have to do it, because this is not just our opinion. These are facts. This is data published authoritatively, not only by the City of New York, but also the MTA had to do a projection on 6 separate toxic pollutants and the impact it has on the community in the first year of the congestion pricing scheme and the year 2045. And in each of those 6 toxic pollutants, for each of those, it will get progressively worse for those 4 zip codes on Staten Island over the next 21 years, and it will get progressively better in Manhattan over the next 21 years. So as Joe Borelli said earlier, somebody should come forward and explain to people like Jasmine Robinson or Bishop Brown or Reverend Carolina or some of the teachers that Mike Mulgrew represents, how is it that we should embrace this? Representing Congressman Nicole Malliotakis, Lily, you have a seat.
Thank you, Borough President. I have a brief statement from the Congresswoman who's in Washington, D.C. today. Just like the city's property tax system, congestion pricing targets working, middle class, and minority communities to subsidize more affluent communities. The Congresswoman is proud to join Borough President Fossella and other elected officials in suing to stop congestion pricing, as it is inequitable, unfair to the outer boroughs, and will see more traffic and pollution and the process that violates federal law. Thank you.
Thank you, Lily. Let's thank the Congresswoman representing the woman who represents this area in the City Council. Councilmember Camilla Hanks is Michael.
Hello, Michael Arvanites, Councilwoman Camilla Hanks, who couldn't be here today. She just wanted to relay the message that this is a bipartisan effort and that this has to take care of the people that are actually running this city. The bus driver in Mariners Harbor, the teacher in Port Richmond, not the stockbroker in Soho, not the wealthy ad exec in Hell's Kitchen. We need to take care of the people that are actually taking care of this city. When someone needs to educate a child, they want to go to Mike Mulgrew's teachers, and now they're going to tax their lungs and their Easy Pass. It just doesn't make any sense. Councilwoman is here to support whatever efforts. Like the borough president said, these aren't our statistics. These are the City of New York's and the MTA's. Do the right thing.
Thank you, Michael. From Councilmember Carr's office, Giuseppe.
Thank you, Mr. Borough President. I have a statement on behalf of Councilman Carr. MTA's congestion pricing scheme is specifically designed to negatively affect those that have the fewest transit options in our city and the worst environmental impacts. Whether it's neighborhoods they ignore with infrastructure and lack of reliable services or exacerbating pollution in communities and environmental justice areas, the little guy will always take the hit for this plan. There is no reason that our borough, Southwest Brooklyn, or other outer boroughs should be forced against their will to shoulder the burden of the MTA's fiscal problems. The MTA is simply picking our collective pockets so they can make up for the poor financial decisions of the past. I stand here with colleagues of every political persuasion to say that we will never accept a plan that makes us pay the state to bring in pollution and traffic to our doorstep. We will never support agencies who will do everything to take more money from us while delivering less. We will never support policies that treat us as a second-rate borough. The city dumped its trash on our land for decades, and we refuse to let them dump pollutants and traffic on our roads now. Thank you.
Thank you. And the man who represents this area in the State Assembly, someone in Fall, couldn't be here, but his representative is here.
Thank Thank you, Borough President. Just want to say, I think the problem with this plan is, just like with any other plan, there was never community input. And there's never been a plan that just outright feels like it's being shoved down our throats. There was never community input in Staten Island, Manhattan, the rest of the boroughs. So that's the initial problem. And as we have clergy in the back, and as many of you may know, over most of our district, I would say over 70% of our district is representing Black and brown communities on Staten Island. And we know, just as the pandemic revealed, Black and brown communities have the highest asthma rates, they have the highest respiratory problems, and this is only going to exacerbate that. So just wanted to point out something that I kind of came across the other day. So as you know, obviously Staten Island is going to be affected by pollution with congestion pricing, but the Bronx as well. And to mitigate this, the MTA has proposed a $130 million plan to mitigate pollution because of congestion pricing. Nowhere in that plan that they proposed does it include anything about Staten Island. And it just further shows the disparities and the lack of care for our borough and our residents. And just obviously echoing what everyone has already said here, we stand in support, bipartisan support, against this plan. We don't care to hear about getting it right, because this plan should not exist to begin with. Thank you.
Thank you very much for representing Assemblyman Pirozzolo is here. Nick?
Well, thank you very much, Borough President Fossella. My name is Nick Robbins, here on behalf of Assemblyman Pirozzolo. He regrets not being able to be here today, but I have some brief statements from him. Again, I would like to thank the Borough President, the elected officials, and all the community leaders who are here today, united across the spectrum of ideas and ideology, united under one cause, to protect Staten Islanders from this senseless cash grab. This message that's being delivered today is very simple. Staten Islanders will not accept serving as collateral damage for New York City and New York City's financial incompetence. Staten Islanders are already asked to pay for so much, whether it comes from driving within our own city, driving over the bridge, the most disproportionate property taxes in the city, and now they're quite literally not being asked, but being forced to pay with their health. It's completely intolerable, and I know as the Assemblyman and every single leader that's standing behind me today is going to fight like hell until it is taken care of. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Nick. From Assemblyman Riley's office, Felicia, want to say a few words?
The Assembly member regrets not being here today, but he has the same sentiments as everybody here today. Congestion pricing is just an unfair tax on the middle class. Personally, having my daughter travel into Manhattan every day by car, she's an oncology nurse, is just an unfair tax on her. It is very difficult to get to Manhattan as it is. And now you're going to put an unfair tax on the entire borough and the city. It's just not fair. Anyway, thank you.
Thank you very much. Did I forget anybody? Okay. With that, any questions? Yeah, the simple answer is we don't want congestion pricing. I heard those comments, and I tried not to make it personal. There was, whoever said it was just a high degree of arrogance to go through this whole, public hearing concept, and people, who are genuine and serious about the topic, whether they support it, oppose it, support it in modification, and then be told, I don't know why you're all wasting your time here. This is happening anyway. Yep. To me, that was just the height of public arrogance, and, there's no place for it. But what we're saying, getting back to, Mike Mulgrew and us and all of us as plaintiffs are saying, among other things, that environmental impact statement should have been performed here. And it wasn't, which is all indicative of the money grab, the rush to get something done. And what we're saying is that we have a higher degree of responsibility, one of which is to conduct an environmental impact statement, in part because the people on the 4 zip codes in Staten Island, Port Richmond, Mariners Harbor, even here to St. George, have been left out of the process, and they will be forced involuntarily to not only pay an additional tax, but also at the same time have their children and families suffer unnecessarily because they want to rush through a congestion pricing scheme to benefit the 66% of the white people in Central Business District who make $300,000 a year. And by the way, I tip my hat to them if they want it, because it probably will make life better for them, but not at the expense of the people of Staten Island. So the long-winded answer is we will do everything we can to stop this. Mike, you want to say?
Throughout this process, it's gotten we've become even more resolute that we have to continue hard because of the fact that when Lieber opens his mouth, it's clear that he doesn't even understand the state law itself. Okay? There has to be real community input. Why didn't they do an environmental impact statement? That's the first question everyone should be asking. So their answer to me was, well, we didn't have the time. You had plenty of time. You chose not to do it. And why did they choose not to do it? That's why. This is why. Because they have to pass a standard that says if you're doing something, you are not giving benefit to affluence at the same time giving that benefit to them at the expense of those who are working and have challenging lives. That is the federal standard. That proves their plan is garbage. People need to wake up. I don't know how to make it any simpler. It's been said here over and over. 2 of the most unhealthiest districts in the United States, Northern Staten Island and the South Bronx, already really unhealthy, injustice, all the air quality is bad, everyone knows that, are getting more pollution. They're getting more pollution in this plan. And the MTA has no plan to try to fix that. They just said it's not that bad. How dare they say it's not that bad? And who gets the benefit? That's even more crazy. Who gets the benefit? The majority of people who are the richest people in the city with the most influence. So if people don't start questioning this, and when Lieber gets his phone calls from the rich folks saying, oh, you have to fix this, that's why he goes out and says stupid, arrogant things like that. He is messaging to his folks. That, see, I'm going forward. I'm going to make sure this gets done. And I don't care what the community says. I don't care what the research says. I'm going to make sure your quality of life gets better. That's why he says those things, because he's messaging to the people that are important to him, which are not the people in the Northern Shore of Staten Island and the Bronx or anywhere else in the city, all receiving a negative impact.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you, Michael. Jasmine in particular, thank you for coming out and representing the district and the Staten Island so well. To Bishop Brown and Dr. Reverend Carolina, thank you, and to all my fellow colleagues in government and their representatives. Appreciate it. Thank you.